Thank you guys for joining. This is your host Imran Chaudhuri. Welcome to another session of our podcast. In today's podcast, we'll talk about the different activities we do in USA as foreigner. We have our guest Ethan with us. So he's a unique person. He celebrated Eid last year in Bangladesh. He's also worked as a AI developer. So I will just ask him to introduce himself, and we can go from there. Welcome, Ethan.
So yeah, my name's Ethan, and like you said, so I am a recently married man. Got married last summer in Bangladesh, and it was kind of a dual purpose trip because we had that and also Qurbani Eid together in the same month, and then also recently started work as an AI developer here doing quality control and manufacturing. So had a lot of life change in the last year, and just happy to talk about my experiences.
Yeah, congratulations. So I think we are really glad to have you here. What are the things when you went to Bangladesh last year? I think that was your second visit. How did you find it like difference than actually in USA? Well, you grew up in USA for like a long time. So what is the main difference if you want to like summarize it in two lines? What is the main difference in Bangladesh and USA?
Yeah, the main differences with Eid, I think that really for me, the big difference there was that it's like everybody was getting together to celebrate like across the country. Every household you passed by, you could tell they were getting ready to celebrate. When you're in the US, one way or another, like the main holidays here are going to be different. And so you're not going to see advertisements in most of the stores. You're not going to see a lot of people getting ready. And really, to have that full kind of excitement and Eid experience, it really depends on the community that you've got around you. You've got to put in a little bit of effort yourself to find the people and spend time with people that are celebrating, because just when you walk into a normal store, the average person isn't going to be even aware of the holiday approaching.
So about the community, like what is like you find very interesting here in US and you see, oh, this is very unique that I don't see in other setup.
In the US, I mean, what I see a lot of is that people here, they all have this shared experience. If they came from another country, this was, their childhood growing up. It's very similar to how an American might feel about Christmas or some of our other holidays, but um, everybody is trying to both have a good experience now, but you also see that they have these memories that they're always bringing up. This was my favorite food that we always had, that, now you can't just, go to your family member's place and enjoy it. You are making it yourself and you're sharing it with your friends here. So it's really, you're passing on a tradition that maybe, it's a part of your heart that you're sharing.
Yep, that's interesting to hear. Yep, that's true because when you actually grow up in different culture, you actually want to bring those out if at least like on a special occasions. That's one thing I
Mhm.
totally see or watched in like among all the different cultures as well. So I would like to know a little bit more about, so since you celebrated Eid in last time in Bangladesh and I did like 16 years back, and
Mhm.
also you celebrated like a couple of more Eids in USA as well. When you actually meet with like foreign students in your class or actually either from Bangladesh or India or any other like countries, what do you see actually the difference between the in the class when they actually participate in the class or in the exam. So did you see that actually the students who grew up here in USA and who actually came from outside as an international students, do they have different communication level? Do they actually participate more or less in the class, or actually in the exam, during the exam, are they more serious, or what are the difference do you see having seen actually in the past?
Mhm. Yeah, well, so in I have both an undergraduate and a master's degree, and those two levels are vastly different experiences when you're
Okay.
talking about international versus US students. So in undergrad, there were some international students, but maybe it's 10 Americans for every international student. The majority of Americans are there. And then really, once you get that degree, a lot of Americans aren't pursuing the master's right away, or maybe they won't do it at all. But so switching to the master's degree, suddenly I felt more like I might be the international student, because in the average classroom for graduate studies, it would be, maybe 2 Americans for every 10 international students. So it's a very different experience once you get to that higher education. But that being said, as far as study habits go, generally in grad school, you're going to get more motivated people anyways. But
Yep.
the international students had to work so much harder to get here because, for me, the graduate school I was going to was just a few miles from where I grew up. But, there's so many hurdles that you go through to get here. I see so many differences. The international graduate students, they might worry about their English. And a lot of times that worry, like, I don't see that it actually plays out in the real world. If they, are already giving presentations and talking to their colleagues, usually when I talk to them, there's no issues with the communication, but they still have that worry and they bring that concern up when they're talking about job interviews and stuff like that. And it's kind of, it's the things that you think other people are going to be worried about, but the real problems are actually that, people just care about the technical things here with school. Like, did you do good work? Did you write a good report? Things like that. So there's a lot of stress, and some of it might not always be placed where the most importance is when you first come here.
I do agree on that. So, like, since me being an international student, I also did my grad school here. So, the way the coursework is designed is like you mostly focused on either a project or semester and presentation. So, if you're doing a project, you have to talk with your teammates. Even if like you were shy at very early stages, but to actually pass, you have to communicate with each your teammates. That kind of like starts the wheel to roll. And once you get everything started, I think there is nothing actually stopping you from there.
Yeah, it's huge just to, put that fear behind you that you're in a different place with different people. Like, just reaching out and communicating, you get the practice and you also learn so much quicker. So
Yeah, even like going on road trips with your friends, with even like your international friends. So, to be honest, the way what I have learned English is basically those bookish nomenclatures. Like I can explain how a system works with a very fine and perfect English, but when someone was, oh, how did you cook the biryani? I know the process. I know very well from point A to point B, everything. But that communicating part is different that we actually don't practice or don't focus enough. So that's where like people kind of feel like, oh, I am making grammatical mistakes and he is not probably conveying the message. Like for instances, like when I came here, like I used to say go diagonally, not saying go across. Both of them are technically correct, but diagonal is like more on the word I learned from my math books.
Hmm.
But people don't use it like in your real day-to-day communications. That's one of the things.
Hmm. And yeah, that's actually a difference that I see that's huge is, and it doesn't always cause problems, but there's going to be certain words that aren't really natural for an American to use, even though like the meaning might be the same and the person's going to understand you the same. But still, like in their head, they might think, oh, well, that isn't how I would say it, but I understand what's going on.
Can you give us a couple of
And
words? What are the words you don't use? What you hear from international students?
oh man, well, with Bangladesh specifically, the first time I went there, I saw that the word take was really common, like take right decision. And it's a small thing, but like we would normally say something like make the right decision instead of take the right decision. And some of that might just be because you guys are more British than us. I mean, you guys were British less than 100 years ago, and we've got a couple hundred years of freedom. But, um, it's just, and it would be the same thing, to be honest, if you lived in California your whole life and then you moved to New York.
Okay.
There's enough of a difference between the way people talk there that you would still have the same experience, even if you're both Americans. You'd be using different words just because of what everybody else is using around you.
I have a question about the Ramadan specific. So I know like you haven't had a Ramadan back in Bangladesh or any foreign country, but and since it's very close to us, so how excited you are about it and what is like how you are preparing for that one? Because like if you are in Bangladesh, like the household will prepare to get like all these groceries that necessary for the Ramadan, um, dates and those chickpeas and everything. So how
Mhm.
you are preparing for that?
Well, I think that's one of the things that I feel more strongly, but not necessarily. So I can see that my wife is making that list of everything that we're going to need during the month. Um, and for me, like, since I don't have the like childhood memories growing up of like, this was my favorite food and all that, like, I do have to think a little bit more. I'm only thinking of the last 4 years worth of, oh, I enjoyed this and this was good. And oh, we need to do this and do that. So it's not quite as like deeply set right now, but I still, it is such a special time that like mentally I'm getting excited. I don't know what to do with it.
So yeah, maybe one question for Monirul as well. So you celebrated like Ramadan and Eid last 3 years in USA. So what do you see the difference between USA and Bangladesh when you actually celebrate Ramadan? And we are going to have Ramadan this week. So what is your expectation?
For iftar, I would say I have done almost 90% of my iftar back in Bangladesh with my family. The 10% was basically like I was like working in the Dhaka and my home district is Jashore. So that 10% goes there, few of the iftar with my friends. So I kind of I always appreciated the idea of having iftar with my own family. Like regardless, so my father was a businessman. So regardless what he was doing, he would make sure that he was back home at the time of the iftar. So it's like more on like uh, just 1 month, so that we are all getting touch with each other. Just one
Mhm.
month. So, but here you go to the mosque for the iftar. So which was like the very first 2023 iftar was like little bit different. It's not, I'm not saying that it's bad, but it's like a different experience, and I really appreciate and enjoy it. And I am looking forward for that one as well for this year. Um, Second thing is that the Eid itself. Here, if you have a good community, you feel that you are home, you are in your comfort zone, but eventually you will miss your parents, your siblings, your family. So uh, we are in a battle between recalling our good old days and also trying to create a new one for us. And it is like the when you and I think the fast Eid is really brutal because this is the first one, and like I had like six Eids here. So after each passing by, it gets easier a little bit. So either I am making good time and good friends getting, so like uh, we share food here, like we have like big lunch with all our friends. So that's one thing. Then maybe going to a nearby park. So that's the kind of, this is a new ritual for now.
Okay.
So, yep. So these are the things. So, but essentially, I miss those things, but I also am so like I am still looking forward for this Eid, this Ramadan, so all these things. So it's like two different things, but still they are individually worth it.
Okay, okay, good to know. So yeah, we are almost in going in of this podcast time, but so I have a couple more questions for Ethan. So one of the thing actually, you studied here, you like did your undergrad and also grad studies. Now you are working as AI developer. Can you? So most of our viewers are from like students. They are looking to land on a job, any type of job in
Mhm.
USA or as an international student. So what is your suggestion actually? What is the next big thing they can be prepared of? And you are working as AI developer. Maybe we can go into it a little bit more in the second question. So what
Mhm.
are the things the student can do to be like more adapt to the job market?
Mhm. Well, I'd say with my experience, I've got two main things that really got my career where it is now. One is like when you get here, you might feel a little intimidated to, get outside of your comfort zone and hang out with people that are, new to you. But, um, my network has really, it's not that it got me jobs, it just made me aware of jobs that I otherwise wouldn't have known about. So I would say you should try to make friends with people, do projects with people, invite them over for dinner, but form relationships with people as much as you can when you're a student, because it might be 5 years later, it might be 10 years later. I had one person, I worked with him in 2017 at a completely different job. And then in 2022, I hadn't talked to him in years, but he reached out to me and he said, "Hey, this job posting just came up and it sounds like exactly what you've been, studying." And that's actually my last two jobs. It's both been just people that I knew 5, 10 years ago that knew my experience. Made me aware of opportunities that might have otherwise flown under the radar, and they were great opportunities. Um, and the other thing that I think was unique is at my last job, I got a little bit of a peek behind the curtain for job interviews, because after every candidate interviewed, you would get everybody together on the team and they would just talk about the goods and the bads. And, one of the ones that stood out as the worst was there was a guy, he had to do a remote interview, which I think is going to be very common these days. But it was kind of obvious that after every question that somebody asked, he kind of looked at a different screen and was like hoping to find the right answer. And I think it's one of the most important things about school in general is if you're learning the right lesson, is you can get all the right answers on all of the tests and still learn nothing and still not be ready for a job. When you get to the job interview, you actually can get a lot of the answers wrong and still get the job if you show that you think about problems the right way, and if you can communicate that your problem solving, has been developed. And you don't develop that problem solving by just finding the right answer. And I think that's going to be harder now with AI because it makes it so easy to not think about something yourself. Instead, you can just, have the answer come out. But, people can tell if you're thinking about the problems and if you're creative about, oh, I understand that this problem's different because of this or that. And so if you can express the way that you think and the way that you problem solve in an interview, you're going to be so much more successful.
Yeah, I totally agree. So based on my experience, so I'm like last few years hiring people. So I interviewed like more than 100 people the last couple of years. So when we look in the candidate, actually not they arrive in the correct solution, but the process of thinking, right? Actually, how they can communicate, what are the things they are thinking about, how to take up these trade-off decisions, right? Along the way, these are the things they need to follow to get to the right answer, not actually arrive the correct answer, right? So in the exam, most likely, if you arrive at the correct answer, you get good grades. But in real life, that's really important. And yeah, to add one more point in the AI, right? So in the life of AI, people like most of the people I see nowadays, they just ask ChatGPT or Google, right? Everything, but they are not thinking about the other things, right? Because if you are having a problem and when you search it, obviously it will give you enough information. But the main problem is that it meets your creativity. How would you solve it, right? Because the computer might already know actually how you would approach this problem. Yeah, that's great to hear. Any last words for the viewers from Ethan?
Yeah, I'd say that after spending the last few years getting to know a lot of international students and seeing their experience here, it might be difficult, but you really can find good community here and you can really have a good experience. It's just you have to put some effort and, really make sure that you're getting outside of your comfort zone while you're here, get to know people. And also Eid Mubarak to everybody.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Ethan, for having time to talk to us. It was really great conversation, and we got a chance to talk to you about all the things what you enjoyed most. And thanks, viewer. So from all of us, like Eid Mubarak, our Ramadan is starting this week. We will celebrate Ramadan and then Eid. Any last word from Monirul?
Eid Mubarak, everyone.
Okay, Eid Mubarak, and see you guys in the next session. And subscribe to our channel if you want to get update for the next session. See you there.